Welcome back to the KickNPost YouTube channel and podcast with your host, Amal Thompson and Chris Perry. We're here with some people's wide receiver one in the NFL draft, but he's top two. I don't think there's much debating that. Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
How you doing today, Chris?
I'm good. Glad we're doing this. He has rose really fast on my rankings because I was a doubter at first, but no longer. No more. I'm a believer.
I had issues with his production this year at USC, but I was a fan from the Pittsburgh production. Obviously, he dealt with injuries at USC, but watching film, he shows me a lot of the things I like to see out of a wide receiver. Shiftiness, his ability to get off the line, his ability to beat coverages, his ability to kind of act on improv, right? When things break down and his quarterback needs him to find open space, Jordan Addison finds that open space. His natural instincts, very versatile. They line him up out the backfield, have him run different routes. They line him up all over the field, right? Deep ball aspect also with this kid. He just does it all. And I like what I see, right? Solid production. Solid size, 5'11". You know, he's a little bit lighter than we expected. He's under 180 pounds, but the movement's just insane, if you ask me. Talk about true shiftiness. He has that, right? Obviously not Zay Flowers, but he's pretty similar.
Yeah.
I like what I see, man. I like what I see. And I know the combine didn't do him much favors because people were expecting him to come in a little bit heavier, but I don't care. This is one of those times where I just don't care. He looks good on film. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And he has the production to match. And I've seen what he's done in two different conferences with two different quarterbacks that are NFL-level talent, and he's been the one for both guys, right? So give me Jordan Addison all day, every day. Now, landing spots, I'm not going to get there yet. I'm going to let Chris have his time on the floor first, but I think
you
he
said
can do
what
a lot.
needed to be said. He can do a lot. You're worried about his size, but he dominated at that size. So why should it matter? They're trying to say he's too slow, but got clear separation on his defenders. It's crazy in open space. So is he too slow? Like, I don't know. They say the NFL level does get harder, but just with his skill set, like you said, his routes, his release, he's a good football player. Like, that's just point blank. He's not a combine warrior. He's a football player. So look at the film. What does he not do? What can't he do? Like, even in terms of, like, I saw people saying JSN has crazy body control. I've seen some catches from Jordan. I'm like, okay, like lean out toward the sideline. Like, he's nice. Don't sleep. I do think he is the number 2 receiver in this draft. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out as the 1 receiver in this draft. Just depends on where he goes. I do think he can be a lower level receiver 1 in the coming years. I will say that right now, just so you know, we're on the same page. But I think he will also be a day 1 player. Not to say like a receiver 1 day 1, but he will be impactful depending on where he goes. I do have a couple teams I want to see him in. So
2 years ago, a wide receiver with pretty elite production played in the Pac-12, played for USC, was unanimously a top 2 or 3 wide receiver on people's boards going into the draft. Had a poor combine. Fell out of people's top 2 or 3 wide receivers in the draft because of the measurables.
yeah.
And has blown up on the dynasty scene because of actual in-game NFL production that if you were just paying attention to film and how he played, you could have predicted. But again, people fell in love with the underwear combine, as a lot of people like to call it, the underwear Olympics.
Yeah.
Shouts out Steve Smith, right? You put these guys in no pads and you have them go run in a straight line and do drills that, of course, they show you the athleticism, but it doesn't translate to real on-field production or real on-field game speed or movement. And I'm talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think there's even like 2 guys that got drafted ahead of him that are matching his production. And I think 5 wide receivers went ahead of him because of the combine. Obviously, the same mistake isn't going to get made with Jordan Addison, but he already started losing a little bit of steam because of the combine. He was unanimously like, oh, yeah, this guy's a lock in the first round. He's kind of built that back up a little bit. But there's still question marks to be had about who even targets him in the first round. The other day, I heard a report coming out that JSN is the only wide receiver that has first round like tags from all the teams pretty much in the league. So people are still asleep to some extent, right?
Yeah.
I think he is gonna be one of those guys where, just like JSN, he'll fit on pretty much any roster. It's just about how they utilize him his rookie year, which leads to how much production he'll give you his rookie year. But I think we're going to look back 2 or 3 years from now and be like, man, how did, say, Tampa get this man early in the second round or something like that? Or how did this man slip to the back end of the first, right? Why is there a team that definitely shouldn't have been able to get Jordan Addison, have Jordan Addison paired with another wide receiver of similar, if not lesser talent, to kind of nurture him and build him up? How did he kind of fall into the right situation when he should have been an early round draft capital kind of guy? Right? I think we'll lose Njigba by pick 14. I don't think he gets past 15. I think Jordan Addison will end up in that 17 to like 32 range, personally. But I know there's teams in that top 15 that could use this guy's talent as well. But I think, unfortunately, he's going to slip out of there, right? Rookie
draft.
I
can see a situation of like someone drafting or trading up and then switching back to get him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's going to be that same situation. Like, how did Justin Jefferson slip that far? You know? Or how did JT go day 2 of the draft and CEH go round 1? You're going to look back and be like, how did these things happen? It's going to be very similar for a guy like Jordan Addison, right?
Yeah.
And me personally, based on what I see on film, I honestly believe, even if this is one guy, if he lands with New England, I'm still okay investing in his career. I think he's shown me enough as a talent as a wide receiver. He doesn't rely heavily on athleticism. I think he's a very smart route runner. I think he's a very crisp route runner. I think he's shifty, right? I think he could still do his thing out there in New England, obviously to a lesser degree than if he lands in a perfect landing spot. But I think he's still worth a first-round rookie draft pick if he lands with literally the worst situation.
Okay, so what do you think is his perfect landing spot?
I think his perfect landing spot currently.
Yeah, because I have one. I don't like it.
I'd love him being with the Giants.
I like the Giants, but I think there might be a better spot.
Where's the better spot?
I do. Pittsburgh.
Well, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. I just think next to Pickens, back with your boy Pickett and Najee, you know.
That makes sense.
They still don't have a line.
Deontay's unhappy. He might leave.
Wouldn't like it. Yeah, I'd be very unhappy Cincinnati fan if that happens. But from a football perspective, great move.
That makes a lot of sense, and I could see that happening. And I could see making it to their pick. But, man, that would be kind of wild for him to get paired up. It's been a lot of old college receivers just finding their ways back to their quarterbacks over the last few years. So that would be pretty. It's
been a trend. So
yeah, it has been.
I mean, it works. Like, get a guy with familiarity. Like, it's football. A lot of connections, a lot of relationships. So that's what it's gonna take. Not only get the best out of Addison, who's a great player, but even to boost your first round pick from last year, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I'd rock with that heavy too. I know obviously you'd hate it, but I rock with that heavy. If he lands with Pittsburgh, I'm bought in for sure. I could see him, honestly, if he lands with Pittsburgh, I could see a lot of Pickens fans being disappointed throughout the year because I think Addison's more year one ready to explode with a guy like Pickett than Pickens was.
Yeah.
So there's that, obviously. In this offense, unfortunately, I feel like Pickens would have to take that step back and kind of play the outside receiver role for a quarterback that doesn't really show me on film that that's his game yet. So he could get hurt a lot by it.
Yeah.
But I would love Addison out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I'd
hate it.
To move eventually,
so that means it'd be a great move.
Yeah. But Addison, I think, past the 4 quarterbacks, potentially 5 quarterbacks now. The Bijan, obviously. JSN is dependent on who goes first and to where. Because obviously if Addison goes to Kansas City and JSN doesn't go in before him. Like, actually, if Addison goes to Kansas City and JSN goes to Chicago, even though I love that matchup, I'll go Addison in Kansas City before him in a rookie draft.
Yeah.
That's, like, sometimes there's perfect pairings, right? And I feel like that would be fantastic for Kansas City. But I'm willing to spend anywhere from the 1-6 to 1 onward, essentially. I'm not taking him before the quarterbacks.
I think he falls in the 6 and 8 range.
Yeah, I'm not taking him before any of the quarterbacks. I'm not taking him before Bijan. Jahmyr Gibbs, if he lands with the Eagles, drafting him before him as well and putting him on my taxi squad because Jahmyr Gibbs souped up with the Eagles offensive line. Love that. Jahmyr Gibbs with the Bengals. Love that as well. So obviously, those 2 running backs and those quarterbacks ahead of any receiver essentially for me. And then I'll be looking at the Addisons and the JSNs after that point. So first round capital for sure. And obviously I don't need to tell you, if he lands back end of the first, early second, you should be trading. Like me personally, I would move Brandon Ayuk, who I have on a roster that I've been trying to move for an early second round pick, to go acquire Jordan Addison if he slips past the first round. I would do that deal. Honestly, this might be spicy too, but I'm willing to move Michael Pittman depending on where Jordan Addison lands to go get him as well.
I don't know about that one. I like the take, but you heard what I said earlier. It depends on who's under center in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I get that. But I think I'd be willing to bank on Addison's upside over Pittman's. But again, sometimes we like the new toy or like the new shiny prospect. But I think I've seen a lot more on tape that I like from Addison than Pittman. It's my personal opinion for right now, right? So that's where I'm at with it. Excited to see where he lands, obviously. Don't have much negatives to say about him. Obviously, the durability is a little bit of a question mark after this past year. But I've seen enough on film to kind of ride with him. And I know he's, again, a little bit undersized weight-wise, but I'm comfortable with what I saw. And I like his talent, so... So outside of Jordan Addison, and hopefully, not for Chris, but hopefully we see him in a Pittsburgh uniform.
Hopefully not. Who they? But yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Is what it is. No closing thoughts. Addison's the guy. He's him. What's yours?
You could probably guess mine. Subscribe. That's my closing thought. You already know.
Okay.
Trying to get to 500 subs. Trying to turn this thing up a little bit bigger. 2023 NFL draft coming up. Tons of fantasy content coming out. We have 2 kick and post leagues right now. Hopefully as things blow up, we can start filling a couple more kick and post type leagues. We're going to do so much with this content. We just want y'all to be along for the ride. Still going to do UFC content. Hopefully do some more basketball podcasts. What's good?
We got to update the kick and post. I'm looking a little different coming around this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got
let's talk about my moves I've made recently, you know?
Yeah, we got to update a lot, right? I got to get back and cover. I didn't even finish covering all the rosters last year. Got to get in my bag, start doing that. Got to talk about who won the league. Shouts out IMD Wavy. Got to talk about the trophy that will be for that league every year. There's so much to cover, and I just want y'all to be along for the ride. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for being a part of it, and help us get to 500 subs. That's all I got to say. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.